Doing the right thing. How do you know what that is and how do you know what to do? I think this is a question that we grapple with personally as well as professionally. So, as a leader, as a boss leader, you start with yourself. So, starting with yourself means knowing what you believe, knowing what your values are. There's a lot of us out there, a lot of people who say, I'm not really sure if I know what the answer is or what I believe about X, fill in the blank. That's okay. Start exploring. Find out. Spend time figuring out what you believe, what you want to believe, if you want to change those beliefs, learn about yourself. When you do know what you believe, or you think you know what you believe, you also want to question yourself. We have so many different things taught to us, and sometimes we don't even realize what's in our head or what we believe until somebody questions it or starts probing it or points it out. And so know what you believe and then question yourself. Be willing to take a look outside of your immediate circle and consider alternative points of views, other people's beliefs. Why? Because you're leading other people. You're going to be surrounded by customers, employees, teammates, colleagues, bosses who have different backgrounds. They have different beliefs than you. And the way that you will be able to lead them with integrity is being open to understand what different people's beliefs are. It doesn't mean you have to change your belief, but your ability to consider alternative views is going to be really important to your leadership and to your ability to decide what's the right thing to do for you and for your team. So, know what you believe, explore it, test it, be willing to consider other points of view. And then in the situation when you are trying to figure out what should I do, what's the right thing to do, trust yourself. Know your values and don't let people manipulate them. When we get into those situations where there's a problem and you have to make a choice, or there's an issue, you've got to resolve it, or you're trying to figure out the right path forward, that's when people's competing values will come and try to convince you that they're right or you should do something a certain way because it's going to benefit you or them or the company. You've got to be able to stand strong in what you believe in that moment. And don't let insecurities creep in. Again, be willing to be open to consider other points of views, but also know what's true for you in that moment. You can test some of this by listening to your own instinct and intuition, particularly how your body feels or reacts. You've got that inner voice. Remember, we're training that inner voice to be our advocate, to be positive and not a critic. And so listen to that, look for clues in your body. I know a lady who runs an organization, and for years she kept getting sick, like consistently. She would get very, very sick because the stress of her job and the choices she was making, she was just letting her body accumulate that and ignoring the clues that her body was giving her. Till she finally was like, I can't get sick like this anymore. I'm going to start managing that stress. I'm going to pay better attention to how I'm treating my body and what clues it's giving me. You will notice that your body will react after a decision or in a situation. Just be observant of that along the day. See how your body feels, because those are clues that it will help you tune in. And seek wise counsel. Find people that you respect, that are respected, and learn from them. You won't always have knowledge or experience for everything that you need to tackle. And so doing the right thing sometimes is hard because you just don't know much about it. So find people who can help you learn. Again, this doesn't mean that you have to do what they say or take their opinion as your own. It does mean you can use it to inform your own ideas and make a decision about what's right for you in that moment. If nothing else, when you're trying to decide how to do the right thing, ask yourself, if I do nothing, what happens? If I do this wrong, if I mishandle it, what happens? If the answer is ever, it causes harm, that's when you want to check yourself. Doing the right thing is generally being measured against what causes the least amount of harm. You want to harm the least amount of people. So choosing to believe, is as a mindset, a daily mindset, choosing to believe that people around you have a positive intent can really help you in moving forward and trying to work your way through what's the right thing to do. Because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there who are just malicious. It just feels like they're deliberately harming others. But can you live your life that way? Successfully live your life, waking up every day and looking around with mistrust of others? I know I can't. And so if you were able to choose to say, hey, I'm going to look beyond what happened, the way it made me feel, you potentially saw something that made you angry, or you felt ignored or left out, or just something outrageous seems to have happened. If you can choose to say, hey, you know what? I believe that that person has positive intent and they were doing the best they could at the time. That allows you to move forward and to be able to do the right thing. It doesn't mean that they were right. It's sort of like forgiveness, right? It's not that what somebody did was acceptable. It's that that allows you to move forward if you forgive. It allows you to move forward and learn and evolve and do the right thing if you choose to consider that most people have positive intent. I mean, this is hard for leaders, particularly in the workplace where things are very rarely one thing or the other. We're busy people. We want people to like us. We want people's respect. And we have a lot of expectations pushing at us. And remember, we're also leading and working with a bunch of people who may or may not share similar values to us. And we hear all the time things like stand up for what you believe in, or don't let people gaslight you. But the fact of the matter is, while that may be true, there are people who do not share our values. They do not necessarily have the same set of morals. We live in a society today where that collective set of morals is broader and broader because there are so many different perspectives, values. Some people think that's wrong, but the best that you can do is to know what you believe and to do as little harm as possible. That will help you on the right thing. I found in leadership, it's usually the harder thing to implement or the tougher choice or the more painful option that tends to be the right thing. Not always, but it's clues that those things, if you're struggling, if it's going to take a little bit more effort to do it, those things are usually the ones that are the right things to do. I don't think that we can escape doing no harm at any time because as a leader, you're going to have to make choices that are right for you, right for your team, right for your company, right for your customers, etc. I'll give you an example. I led a team, and one individual on the team had been a very good performer, and then they started to decline. And over a series of months, we worked on this. We talked about the decline in performance, what performance is supposed to be. We offered up resources that were provided from the company to help this person. We set plans and goals and mitigating actions in place. But the performance wasn't improving. The attitude of this individual on the team wasn't improving. And what we noticed is it was really bringing team morale down because there were a collective group of people who were doing what they were supposed to. They were meeting performance standards, they were engaged, and they were observing somebody else who wasn't able to do that. And it didn't work. The position it puts you in as a leader is you have to make a very tough call, right? You have to decide when is it the right time for this to be enough. And that is harmful to you. Like it hurts. It's a tough conversation to have with yourself. You got to really build up experience in that. And then you have to have the tough conversation with the individual to say, this is no longer working. This is not the right place for you anymore. You can no longer be part of the team. That conversation is very painful for the individual. So those things feel harmful. But the collective greater good there is that the team needs to not be pulled down by this individual. And generally speaking, this is not always 100% true, but generally speaking, you are doing that individual a favor because you've done everything you could to help them in this moment, in this place. Now it's time for them to move to the next. Oftentimes, that ends up being a better thing for the individual too. As you do the right thing as a leader, you will come across situations where you do have to do the hard thing, and the hard thing is often the right thing. Hillary Chavit says, you'll be judged both on character and competence. And we see a lot of people talk about or refer to other leaders. He was very nice, but she was very smart, but, and then they insert some issue. When you think about your reputation, when you're trying to decide what's the right thing to do, if you think about, I want people to remember me for both character and competence, but especially character, because I want people to feel good. I don't want to harm people. That's integrity. You're building integrity when you build that character. When people know that they can rely on and trust you for good decisions, for doing the right thing, that is building integrity and people follow it. They trust it. It motivates them. So if you are looking, if you are, sitting back and trying to evaluate a situation and say, what should I do? I could cause the least amount of harm by doing X. Does that also follow my standards? Does it show integrity? Does it build character? Those are things that help you really identify what you want to do or the steps that you want to take in order to do the right thing. Now, you have to keep in mind the company that you may work for, right? Your company has values and you have to align with them as a leader within the company. If you don't agree with your company's values, you've got a couple of options, right? So that could be work with the company to change them. You could leave, you could go elsewhere. You could pause and consider, is there something that I need to learn here about myself? A value that I don't have that I should have, and then you could compromise or change and evolve. There are options there, but the number one option is don't do something that you are not aligned to. You need to figure out if this is the right thing for you and for your team and take that forward. There are companies out there, unfortunately, that say the right thing but don't do it. They find workarounds for situations in order to win or succeed. And if you happen to work in that environment, I feel for you. That is a tougher road. But I will encourage you to remember this. It's unlikely that you will work for this one same company for your entire lifetime and career. But it is very likely that the people around you that you work with, that work for you, that are your bosses and leaders, that are your associates, that are your customers, the people that you're around are noticing your character, your choices, and your behavior now. That will stick with you for your lifetime. So make sure you do the right thing.